live from downtown State College.
Welcome into the Lane and Tangwall live call-in show, sponsored by Anti-Fragile Brewing Company. Here we are, K-Cam, JP409, Drown My Sorrows in that. Chris Buchanani and I actually took a shot of that before we filmed that post-game show. We needed it. It was 11 a.m. in the morning, and we did that. How we doing, folks? Thanks for joining us today. Oh, boy, it's an exciting one. Arden, what is up? My man Julius Caesar is in here as always. Evil Franklin fanatic. Someone said, did UCLA hold? Oh, boy. Well, Brett McMurphy just put out bowl predictions right now that are not college football playoffs. Got Penn State going to the Las Vegas Bowl right now. It's big-time stuff, guys. Big-time stuff. What's up? 814-400-4188. Give us a call. TK, what is up, my man? Good evening. Got a little double chat right now. We'll get it figured out. Doing well, Blue Eli. Doing well. Got my beer in hand. We are sitting here on this fine Monday night. Just did a show with one of the hockey players, so that was cool. Imagine the opt-outs for the Vegas Bowl, Chris. Forgot about opt-outs. We got a caller. Let's just get going. I don't have anything else to say. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Mike from New York. How are you?
Doing well, Mike. What's your question?
So, a couple weeks ago, I've been listening to your podcast. You said Franklin would not be fired. Let's just say this season unravels to 7-5, 8-4. Does he get fired? And if so, or I guess with a financial agreement with the university, and if so, who would Penn State target? And please don't say Matt Rule, who hasn't ever beaten an AP top 10 team.
Appreciate the question, brother. Yeah, look, I said it wasn't going to happen. I think there is a world. I think it would have to be 3 more losses at least for it to happen in season. I still don't think it's super likely. I think there's going to have to be some type of agreement postseason after it's over where you bring down the buyout and you kind of all agree. We've done everything that we can do here. Let's go ahead and move on. As far as candidates, yeah, I mean, look, I feel like it would be someone we aren't really necessarily looking at. But obviously, Kenny Dillingham out at Arizona State. You got Kirk Cinetti at Indiana. Who else? I mean, I don't think you don't really want to go the Will Stein route. You don't want to be the first one on that train. But Will Stein is going to be a head coach here very shortly. Who else do you got? I'm trying to think who else. Those are the people out there. I've seen people bring back OB, who's not doing too hot. Not doing too hot up in Boston College. But I know that would probably get a lot of support. I'll tell you what. Franklin's presser today wasn't good. Wasn't good, guys. I'm going to be honest. It was a little bit deflating, and there was a couple things that kind of made no sense to me, honestly, mainly the Kaytron Allen stuff, talking about the special team stuff too. Just didn't fully sit right with me, talking about Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen, saying that they were going to try to get Kaytron carries before the game and just didn't happen. So that was kind of heartbreaking. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from? Manny Diaz.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Aaron. I am calling from Wexford, Pennsylvania.
There you go. Aaron, what is your question?
Don't have much of a question, but it's probably more of a statement. We'll see what comes out at the end of it, but I just wanted to say this. I know you talked about the presser today. I wanted to know what you think should have been done on Sunday. Do you think that, now, I understand we're probably in more of a rock and a hard place regarding letting go of Coach Franklin, if that is going to happen. But at this point, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Do you think that if all else fails, he will be gone if he loses one more game this season?
Yeah, I mean, No, so first off, no. I mean, there was no world where he was getting fired after the UCLA game. It wasn't going to happen, especially because of the money, the buyout. I know everybody was calling for it, but it's just the buyout at $56 million is so unlikely to happen just because Penn State is already in a rough place money-wise, and it's not even just $56 million. You'd have to pay the $56 million. And then you got to bring in, and obviously you would just have an interim coach the rest of this year. But then it's $56 million plus what, $80 million you got to pay the next guy. So I think that is it's just we're gonna have to figure some other way out if you are of the ilk that you want Coach Franklin gone. Now, as far as one more loss, I mean probably not. I mean, especially if we're talking Ohio State, if you just lose to Ohio State, which is very expected at this point. I like I said, I don't know where we're at the end of the year. But if you lose, you're starting to look. The ones I'm looking at are at Iowa, obviously Indiana, Nebraska. I say at Indiana. Sorry, Indiana's home. Nebraska also coming to town right after Indiana. And then a couple sneaky ones. At Michigan State, I feel like that's going to be a little sneaky. When we went out there in 2021 and just got throttled, I think it was Peyton Thorne did us in. God, if there's so much, I feel like there's so many parallels between 2021 and 2025 where you lose a big matchup. 2021, it was Iowa. 2025, it was Oregon. And then you go and you lose a game you absolutely should not in 2021, 9 overtime to Illinois. A lot worse. UCLA in 2025. And now we're at this sticking point. And I will talk as someone that was in the locker room in 2021, and I'm not in the locker room, so it's not fair to say, but I thought we had pretty good leadership in 2021. I feel like the leadership seems to be a bit rocky right now on this 2025 roster. That is probably my number one worry is, does the locker room start to go negative? And when the locker room starts to go negative, all else is pretty much lost. There's really no recovering from that, especially if your leaders go negative, because then it's everybody has a who gives a crap mindset. So, yes, Griffin Conway said, 2025 expectations are way higher. Yes, I am very aware of that. I'm just comparing the parallels of the season. That was very different. I don't even think we were ranked coming into 2021. But we were 4 at Iowa, and obviously when we played, what were we? 3? Oh man, it's all running together. I don't know. This is depressing, guys. It still doesn't feel real to a certain degree. I'm gonna be honest. This still feels like a parallel universe where we somehow, there's no way, I wake up every morning, there's no way we lost to UCLA. There's no way. Yeah. I'll talk about this. I haven't really talked about it much. The whole offense, like Drew Allar, I've said this. I know everybody has their takes on Drew Allar. I feel bad for him. I feel like he's been put in horrific situations. I don't think he's been put in situations to win or develop. I think develop is the bigger issue there. And that's why you're seeing him struggle in those key moments, because I feel like it's always been kind of compress him. Hey, Drew, don't make a mistake. And, if you're going to throw a deep ball, make sure to, keep it short if you're not perfect. And don't throw that interception and don't do this. And it's like, you're not letting him grow. He generally doesn't really, he's never had to truly read an offense. Everything has kind of just been done for him and held his hand. And I think that's really stunted his growth a lot. And so I feel for him. The wide receivers, let me tell you what, the wide receivers were bad on Saturday. The effort, first off, specifically by one of them, was pretty horrific. I was screaming in here in the studio. I was not happy watching that this morning. I already saw it, then I rewatched just the wide receivers. I watched the whole offensive tape again. Drew didn't have anybody to throw to. I mean, they were clamped up by the UCLA DBs. I'm starting to think I don't even know if the Oregon DBs are as good as we think they are. Who knows? I guess we'll find out against Indiana this weekend, but we don't really know. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Landon. This is Andy from Virginia. I've got basically kind of a two-parter. One, I think the season's cooked. I don't see enough fight in this team. And while I will be going to Northwestern, I'm expecting probably a shit show at the stadium. The second part is, do you think that maybe possibility Franklin survives the season and we go out and we hire go and try and get Joe Moorhead back or something? He does something desperate.
No, I mean, I don't think we bring back Moorhead. I think it would be someone. I think in an ideal world, the number one coach you'd want is Cignetti from Indiana, and that would be kind of a correct trajectory for Cignetti. Dominate at JMU, go to Indiana, find success very quickly, and then it's all right. Even though they're obviously a very, very good team, and Indiana actually has a lot of booster support, probably almost more than Penn State. You still, that's not an elite program, so that would be the next step for Cignetti. I think that would make the most sense. So if you're talking about coaches that are going to fit what Penn State's looking for, I think he would be one of the few. Like I said, you're not going to go out, you're not going to get a Will Stein. No, I do not think you're not going to bring back Brent Pry. There's no one from the Franklin tree that you are going to bring in after James Franklin to coach this team. Yes, I've already seen this. Someone said, does Adidas play a role in pushing Franklin out? No, guys, I'm sorry. Adidas, they're not putting up any money. You're not really in any conversations. I don't think that has too much of an effect on it. Oh, boy. Yeah. Gosh, this hurts, man. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Dan from Raleigh.
Dan, what's your question, my man?
Hey, love your show, love your content. Keep it up. Can't get enough of it. So there's been a lot of talk about mutually coming to an agreement here with James Franklin, getting him out of his contract. How realistic is that? I mean, he's due a lot of money. He'd be insane to leave that on the table, right? He's no stranger to making bad decisions, but this seems like an incredibly bad decision for him, right? Money-wise. I'm just trying to I'm trying to avoid getting my hopes up again. It's been a season of getting my hopes up, and I don't want to set myself up for another disappointment. You know what I mean?
I'm glad that you're guarding yourself, as you should, brother. Someone said Mike Tomlin. Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's hard to say. So here's what I'll say. And Chris Buchanani said this earlier today, too, when we were on Obligatory, which you are going to want to see tomorrow. We open up with a special opening. We'll just say that. Be on the lookout for that one on For the Bloggy. I think if Franklin kind of has somewhat of an implosion here in the Penn State team and they drop another 3 or 4 games, I think what starts to happen, though, he starts to become very undesirable to some of these other schools. If he rallies and goes 9-3 and you just lose to Ohio State, there's a lot of teams that still want that, but I think if you kind of implode, I think you kind of kill some of your avenues if you're James Franklin. And yes, as much as I'm sure he does not really want to be here any longer, I think we can all see that. It is very evident. You also don't want to give up $9 million a year just that easily. So you got to be very careful about that if you're James Franklin. You're not just going to give that up. That's a lot of money. So in an ideal world, what I think will happen and would be the most likely is there's some type of agreement reached towards the end of this season after, and it is, hey, we're going to bring down the buyout, $10 million. We'll pay you the rest of this year, give you $10 million, and we just split. And it's just that simple. I think that would make the most sense. How that works is basically a conversation then between Franklin's agent and the board, and they say, hey, we need you to come down to this number, and then you keep negotiating and you figure out what works the best. So I think that would be the conversations to have. Let's Go Flyers says that was UCLA's Super Bowl. They wanted more. Yeah, they did want it more. That was clear. Jaron said Matt Canada would be the perfect fit, TBH. God, these Steelers fans are killing me right now. We've had some horrible coaches on the Steelers. We got a caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Arden. I'm calling from McMurray.
Arden, my man, what is your question?
I got 2 questions. First, shout out to you. Your content has been the highlight of this season.
Thank you, brother.
In 2022, when you guys played up at Michigan, just an absolute massive game, Katron Allen, as a freshman, scored a rushing touchdown on 4th and goal. So as a senior, why is he not in the game on 4th and 2 when your season is on the line? And my second question is, as long as I've been a fan, we're dubbed linebacker U, right?
Right.
So how exactly can no linebacker behind Dom DeLuca get on the damn field? Especially with highly recruited 4 and almost 5-star recruits. Like, who's responsible for that mess?
Yeah, so I hear your pain. The Katron Allen situation makes no sense to the public. I've been trying to make sense of it. It doesn't make sense. I can't figure it out. Once again, he averages basically double the yards per carry that Nick Singleton has. James Franklin, if you missed my press conference video, I'm sure most of you saw it at this point. He said we had a conversation, James Franklin and the coaches, before the game saying we need to get Kaytron Allen more involved. And he left it at that. There was nothing else. There was no explanation, and there was no, even excuse as to why it didn't happen. He just said, yeah, we had the talk that we're going to get him more involved. And then he had 8 carries. That's why I say coaching malpractice. And I've seen some people be like, oh, you're just clickbaiting. Like, you're just trying to go viral. I don't really care to do that right now. I'm doing fine. I'm just being honest. That is coaching malpractice. When you have a running back that is doubling the yards per carry of the other running back, and the running back that's getting 3.2 yards per carry is getting more carries than the running back that's getting 7 yards per carry. There's really no other way to spin it except coaching malpractice. The linebacker situation, yeah, that's also a hard pill to swallow. I did not have someone ready. Dom and Amari basically played every single snap. If Dom didn't get hurt for like one or two plays, they would have played every single snap. So clearly there's not a lot of confidence in Specca, in Wiley, in Smith. That's got to change very quickly. And I would say, and the idea was, hey, whoop up on UCLA and get those young guys in, get them some reps against a horrid UCLA offense. Oh my God, we suck. Sorry. I mean, really, it's bad. I saw someone say, no Rojas means DeLuca is playing on his weak side. Did someone say a 4-1-6 defense? Now that would be something. Talk about getting the ball run down your throat. Cornwell says, Landon, how fired up you when Jimmy Frank sent that 1-0 tweet? Because I was stoked. I hit snooze 3 times this morning prior to waking up. Cornwell, thanks for the donation. Got to be one of the top donations here, donators of the channel this season. Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't know if he was going to send it out, but it came out a little bit. It came out a little bit later than usual. But he put it out. I think it's around 3.5 million views on that tweet right now. He's getting it heavily on that one. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Christy. I'm calling from Huntington, Pennsylvania.
Hi, Christy. What's your question?
I guess it's a little bit of a question. My question is, well, this isn't a question. This is definitive. We have the best coach in the entire world in State College, Pennsylvania, named Cal Sanderson. Is there a way that he could come over and maybe talk to the team? I know he's done it in the past, but I'm just wondering if any advice would be willing to be taken by somebody like Cal and his staff that preaches fun and letting it rip and just doing anything possible to continue the dynasty of Penn State wrestling.
Yeah, so I don't think he probably doesn't want to come over right now. I don't know if Franklin wants to have anybody else in right now at the moment. Like you said, Kale's came and talked to the team before Franklin actually went and talked to the wrestling team as well. I remember that. Did we lose after that? I think we did, producer Steve. I don't know. We got to look that up or something. I think we may have lost after that one. But yeah, no. I mean, I don't think I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think anybody's coming to speak at the moment. I'll be honest. Let's see. What do we got? What do we got in here? Oregon fan here, Landon. Love the show. Have watched all your videos since before the Oregon game. Appreciate you. Theodore, thank you so much for the support. We got an Oregon-Indiana pregame show coming at you guys Wednesday. Tomorrow, today I had producer Jesse on from the Josh Pate College Football Show, and that will be posted tomorrow. It was a very good conversation, very candid, and we talked about all the things. He watches a lot of tape, so all 22, ball knower. Producer Jesse is a ball knower certified, and that's going to be a good one for you guys. You guys are going to enjoy that. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Brad Phillips from North Carolina.
Brad, what's your question, my man?
Hey, I just 2 comments really. It's we've got Pat Kraft. He's a football program's dream, so I think he's going to make sure this thing gets corrected one way or another. So, looking at some of the positive, the other thing is Amari Campbell. Kid's just balling out. Huge bright spot on the defense, and again, just looking at the positives with what everybody's going through. But yeah, that's it. Just try to look at the positives.
Yeah, no. Sometimes you got to find the positives. Yeah, Amari Campbell's definitely been a positive. I'm trying to think, what other positives do we have from that game? I mean, Drew Allar fought his butt off. I'll say that, as much as people don't want to hear that. Shout out Anthony. Drew Allar fought. There was nothing. There was nothing for Drew Allar to pass to. I mean, his wide receivers were giving minimal effort. It was questionable all around. Lynn Miller says, my father, Lou Prado, who was considered the historian of Penn State sports before he passed in February, is probably rolling over in his grave after Saturday. He spoke very highly of you. I love your content. Lynn, thank you so much. Your father was an amazing man. That means a lot that you said that. And yes, I'm sure he is not happy. He's not happy up there. Oh, man. Sorry, I missed that. Whoever just donated. Sam Williams, $5. Thank you so much, brother. Landon, your shows are helping many of us get through this. Didn't Cignetti sign a big contract last offseason? Does that make him not an option? Let's double check that here. Kurt Cignetti contract. I think he did. Yeah. Signed an 8-year, $72 million contract with Indiana running through 2032. So, yeah, no good. Probably. That's very unlikely. And, I mean, the way he's going, he's killing it. So, hey. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from? Penn State Mafia said, thoughts on Rich Sarkella?
This message.
Oh. I can't pronounce Rich's name right now. Opening question to the biggest presser of James Franklin's tenure. Penn State Mafia, what was his question? I don't even remember. I was watching the presser. If I didn't write anything down, it means it wasn't that good of a question. Here we go. What's the caller? What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Doug from up in Bradford County. Look out till you do a great job. You on to Boomer, I'm a Boomer.
My man.
Last week at the... So, just so you know, we've been season ticket holders since Cephalo was there. And you look at Joe Paterno was the first big fish in the cancel culture. They finally got him. We love Joe in Northeast PA. But I'll tell you why you do a good job, LT, is because you keep your shows to where we can watch them. Blue, white, they're an hour and stuff. You have long shows, and we'll watch those. But I can come home, I can watch a 10, 15, 20-minute show that you have, learn some stuff, and keep moving. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, brother.
Real quick. So I'm going to probably shock you. We were never Franklin people up here. In fact, I stopped listening to Penn State radio because Jack and Steve are the biggest apologists for Franklin. And I think they need to go, and I think the obligatory should do Penn State radio on Saturdays. So it was so bad that I got so tired of them. I used to love them. When Fran Fisher was there, and they'd bitch once in a while and all that, and George. But now I've been listening to other college teams to just hear what their broadcasters do. They don't apologize for head coaches anyway. I think Franklin is immature. I played football. I never went where you went, tore my knee up, all that stuff. But we had coaches we looked up to. They weren't jumping around like a bunch of frickin' little kids and all that other stuff. They were men. They were manly guys that when they spoke, we listened. And it was, back then it was like boot camp. So I'll stop talking, but we're just sick of them. And Saturday, I'm going to be cheering for our guys. That trip to the West Coast, I'm not making any excuses, but those of us that fly out there, you're screwed up for a day or so after you get there. And I'm not shifting any frickin' responsibility on anybody other than the coaches. But please, everybody cheer those guys on. We need them. We love them. Get rid of the coaches we got to get rid of. And I'm done talking now. You got a Boomer, long-time listener. Keep it up, LT.
My guy, I appreciate the support, man. God, where do we even start with that? Someone said it was Kevin Horn on the radio. Kevin Horn on the radio pregame. Imagine this. Oh, man. That might have been outside of the guy calling in impersonating Donald Trump saying you're fired, James. That was probably number 2 of the call-in show. Holy cow, that was something. The obligatory show being the Penn State radio pregame show. That is one hell of an idea. I'll pass that on to Chris Buchanani, the gang, and imagine Mike the mailman. I'll tell you guys, obligatory tomorrow is going to be hilarious when you see it. I can't wait. We had quite the time and a lot of beers today. What do we got? It's depressing when he succeeds at the next level. Everyone will say he's actually any good. Tyler Warren, best tight end in the NFL already. We might have missed him a little bit. I'll be honest. We got a caller. Oh, wait, real quick. Mark, my guy Mark. Appreciate you, brother. $25, my guy. It has never been more difficult to be a Franklin fan. Landon, why was there not a spy put out into the fourth quarter? Coaching malpractice. That is my answer once again, Mark. I'm sorry I don't have a real answer. The coaches failed us. We have a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Landon, it's Mike from Lebanon again.
Mike, my guy.
What's going on, man? I'm glad, good show so far. Hey, you've been in that locker room. I got to ask. I know James Franklin holds everybody to a high standard, but is it such a high standard that, like, if they make a single mistake in practice, that's it? Like, they have to reprove themselves? Is it so bad that these guys just mentally can't get on the field? Like, I don't know. You know, this is crazy. Like, how is these 4- and 5-star linebackers not able to come in and do at least a workman's job and do a little bit? I don't get it, man. You've been in that locker room. What's your insight?
Yeah, brother. No, I mean, look. So you got what? I think you got 8 linebackers on scholarship, and you got a couple. They're fairly young. But you have to ask the questions of they're not able to play at all. And it's not that, you're not fully confident. This is not a situation you would like to be in if you were Penn State, but you still got to play some of these guys. I mean, Dom DeLuca can't play 80 snaps. It's just that simple. And look, Dom's one of my best friends. Dom obviously is a special teams captain, was great when he would come in and he was playing around 24 snaps. It's not a guy that you can ask to play 70 snaps. And he's going to have to do that now. But there was a great rotation with Amari Campbell, Tony Rojas, and then Dom would work his way through Mike and Will Backer. And now you're in a really, really tough place. You miss Tamir Robinson. That one starts to hurt a lot more now. And obviously I get you couldn't keep him, and that's why you brought in Amari Campbell. But you would have liked to probably get one more backer out of that portal, especially if this is how you felt about your linebacker room, that you had no one else. If you felt that way, you got to bring in someone else. I don't know how you don't do it. Drew said, does this situation force PSU to be more aggressive in the portal next year to get things right, especially knowing you have young quarterbacks in a make-or-break year? Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see Penn State probably go into the portal more than they ever have before. But it also depends kind of just what happens this season and this offseason. We got a lot of things, got a lot of weeks left. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling
Hello,
from?
Landon.
Yes, sir. What is your question?
Hello.
Hello. What is your question, my man?
Hey, Landon. How are you this evening?
Doing well.
Good. Well, this is Johnny H. from Hollidaysburg. Just calling in here tonight. Looks like Franklin in his press conferences the last 2 weeks completely defeated. And I'm just starting to wonder, he maybe finally sees that he can't do it here. I can't think the alumni are really, really upset, or the fans are. I just don't see how he continues to stay here. I know we're not going to buy him out, but I think now's the best time for him to get out, because I think his stock is falling. I think maybe like a Virginia Tech or a South Carolina that comes open, or an Arkansas might be the best for him. I just want to get your thoughts on that, and maybe who's a potential replacement. I thought maybe like Joe Brady would be a great option because he's young. I just want to get what your thoughts are.
Yeah, look, like I said, if he leaves this year, it's gonna have to be some type of mutual agreement at the end of the season. I think anybody in the NFL is probably hard pressed to be the answer, just because I'm telling you how awful it is to go from being in the NFL as a coach to being college. You got to babysit kids. You got to deal with NIL. You got to still do recruiting. Nobody wants to do that. Joe Brady has gotten to move on, and he's moved up quite quickly. Joe Brady's looking at a head coach NFL gig. Forget college. So put that to the side to start right there. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm sure it's going to start to be a topic of people talking different people looking for this head coaching gig. We got what do we got? 7 games left. My God, 6, 7, something like that. Ooh, 6, 7. It's gonna be a long rest of the season, man. I don't know. I have to go home tonight. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I have to go home tonight, and I have to turn on Northwestern tape and find a way to muster up the courage to sit there and write down notes about Northwestern's offense and defense. I have to study Preston Stone, who actually just made his trip to State College not too long ago in December with SMU as the backup quarterback for Kevin Jennings, did not play, and now he is going to be back in State College this weekend. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I'm going to have to pass up watching Michigan, some Ohio State to watch Northwestern. It's a bad night for me. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Let's go, Landon. This is Dan from New Jersey.
Dan, what is your question, my guy?
I just wanted to reach out because I feel like you do a great job, breaking down film, and I love watching those videos. And I feel like I do learn a lot about, the X's and O's of football where, I don't have the background on that. And I feel like when I watch your videos, you do a great job of breaking it down and saying, hey, this is what the offense should be doing. Here's where some of the missed blocks are. And I just wanted to kind of get your insight on, being a former player and being in the locker room. What is the preparation like from, an offense and a defensive standpoint? Obviously, you can speak more on the offense, but, the coaching and the player combination of saying, hey, this is what works and we're going to move forward with this rather than, keeping kind of the same play calling, because I feel like, especially this UCLA game, a lot of the plays are predictable. And I just want to know, what's it like in the locker room when you're speaking to the coaches? How much insight do you guys give to them and saying, hey, this is what we feel comfortable with? And the coach is saying, I understand what you're saying here, but, I think this is a better scheme to kind of go against this upcoming defense.
Yeah, generally that doesn't really happen at all. Especially in these moments, you're not getting too much feedback on what plays the players want to run. If you want me to be honest, it is incredibly stale though. I think you have to think, if you didn't bring out some new stuff after Oregon for UCLA after that happened, I don't know if you're going to bring out any new stuff for Northwestern, meaning that this offense is probably going to look the same. The guys are on their off night right now. It's Monday, so you got to think you're probably trying to collect yourself a little bit, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and figure out a way to go to practice tomorrow and get a little bit better. But it's going to be hard. I am curious how loud. I mean, I feel for the players because they obviously don't deserve to have to deal with this type of stuff. I think that is something that is really difficult to deal with, having done it in 2021. It's frustrating, especially when the fans start to kind of give up on you a little bit. And I'm like I said, I've said it multiple times. I'm not angry at any fans that are angry. You have every single right to be, especially if you have supported the program for a while. But it's hard. I mean, there's definitely going to be boos to start that game against Northwestern, and Lord help us if that thing stays close. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm a little bit worried about that. I did want to give a shout out to Tyler Donahue from 24/7 Sports. Tyler's going to actually join me for the Northwestern pregame show. That is my guy. Been interviewing me since I was in 8th grade. He put out a tweet today. He said, been a decline of who in the stadium media room is willing to ask James Franklin's questions. He is talking about in reference to his Monday pressers. He says, Lions 24/7 will keep asking. Personally, got 2 questions for the first time ever today. So did Audrey Snyder, John Saber. As usual, Mark Brennan led things off. He said some outlets asked nothing. I thought that was interesting, that a lot of different of the Penn State media kind of staying silent in that room, not even asking James Franklin questions. Obviously, you guys know I don't go to that. I cover it for you guys. I watch it. I sit down. I don't go to the media scrums. I stay out of that mess. I leave that fun for everybody else. But I thought that was interesting. I thought that was really interesting. That it's, I don't know. There is a interesting dynamic going on right now in the media. Braden, what's up, brother? Will says, why don't people ask questions? Either a lack of want to ask questions or you guys are funny. We got a caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What is your name? Where are you calling from? We are out. Coach James Franklin, Enjoyer, says, it used to be Coach James Franklin, Enjoyer, I believe. He said, Landon, how much do those boos affect you and players in a moment week to week? How do fans impact team mentality from your perspective? I don't know. It's one or two ways. You can either kind of go the route of like, we're going to rally and it's us against the world. And I've been in those type of locker rooms. Sometimes that can be good, or sometimes it's just going to bring you down. But like it generally is not good when your fans boo you. Let's be real. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Thad. I'm calling from Mansfield, Pennsylvania.
My man, what is your question?
So I've been on hold for a while. Hopefully nobody asks this, but here's the question. I got a question, then I got a statement. But when is it too soon to start playing some of these young guys, even though they are inexperienced? We keep on hearing about the linebacker depth not being good enough, but did they just misjudge in the recruiting process? I mean, it seems like they've got some studs there on the bench, but when do you throw them into the fire?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets to a point where you absolutely have to start to ask questions and say, hey, do we have other guys that can help us out? I've seen everybody's asking about Denmark and Howard at wide receiver. I would be upset if I were Denmark or Howard, looking at what the wide receivers have done, their lack of ability to create separation, to be game changers. As I said earlier, not going to say anybody's specific name, but we got some guys giving some very questionable effort. I'd be angry if I'm a young guy. Why, give us an opportunity. Allow us a chance. I think that's very similar with the running back 3 role. Now, I think that's a little bit different because it's clear that, and coaches have said this, that RB3, and no one has really separated themselves. It seems like everybody between Quentin Martin, Cam Wallace, and Corey Smith, everybody's kind of been banged up at one point or another so far this year or starting in camp. But you do have to look at that and say, hey, is there a younger running back that can also kind of change up pace a little bit? Can we get a speedy guy in there that can get some breakaway speed? Because right now, you don't have that. Christopher Riley said, Landon, do you see a lack of player-led accountability from this team? I think it is plentiful on a team full of seniors, but it seems to be lacking. Yeah, I mean, look, when you have a squad like this right now, when you drop one to Oregon, drop one to UCLA, obviously you do have to ask those questions and say, hey, where is our leadership from top down, from coaches, from players, all of the above? You have to take a look in the mirror. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Jamie Hamlet from South Carolina, Charleston.
Jamie, what's your question, my man?
Hey, man, I'm just curious. I want to get Landon's perspective, just being in that lineman room in the past and just seeing some inconsistencies this season when that position group was kind of supposed to be one of the better, if not best, in the country. And just wanted to get his perspective on some things he's seen as far as some of the inconsistencies we've seen so far and what he thinks they can do to get right for the back half of this season.
Yeah, it's definitely been disappointing because we all knew what the expectation was coming into this year. And it was, even if the wide receivers don't pan out to be as good as we think they will be, and talking in preseason terms, we got the offensive line, we got the run game. And against a team like Oregon, Ohio State, you're going to be able to lean on that and go for, at minimum, 4 to 5 yards per carry. That was the feeling coming into this year. And I think that's probably been maybe the most unsettling thing about this season is the struggles in the run game, because you're returning the same guys, you're returning the same running backs, you're returning the same offensive line that dominated an Oregon front seven in the Big Ten championship. That was frankly just, they were better last year than this year, and they took us to town. 1.8 yards per carry at halftime against Oregon. That's not good. That's not good at all. So it's a combination. And Franklin was asked about the offensive line in his presser, and he said, "Hey, I can't sit here and point to one thing because on every play it's something little of this guy's footwork is wrong. This guy had his head down when he was trying to block and got swam." And he's right about that. That really is a thing with offensive line blocking, because you have 5 to 6 guys each play that all need to work as one. If one of the 6 whiffs on a block, the play's blown up. And that's what's so hard about offensive line play, and that's why it's hard to be a good offensive line. Now, and that's what kind of happened a bunch of times. There's times I saw Nolan Rucci struggle to get up to linebackers. There's times Nick Dawkins struggled to get up to linebackers. There's times that Luke Reynolds whiffed on some blocks. There were times that Khalil Dinkins whiffed on some blocks. There was kind of problems all over the place. TJ Shanahan, honestly, I thought looked a lot better at right guard. I think he looked better at right guard than Anthony Donko did. Now, Franklin said, he looked at the run game and said, hey, part of the problem is that you're missing, he said we were missing Donko. Donko did play 3 series at right tackle. I think it was kind of quiet and everybody was so angry at that point because it was coming right out of halftime. I don't really know if anybody noticed, but Donko played 3 series there and then went out. So obviously kind of maybe just working him back in a little bit, but I like TJ Shanahan better at right guard. I thought he was a little bit more physical and was pretty good in pass protection. Shane the GOAT, thank you so much for the donation. He said, coaching recommendation, Chip Kelly, how do you think the wide receivers' morale is taking handoffs? This season can't be good for their draft stock at all. Yeah, man, it's do you think Franklin will pull a B. Kelly? So it's definitely hard as a wide receiver when you are not getting the targets you want to get. At the same time, you have to understand when you come to Penn State, you run the football. I mean, that's kind of what you do here. You don't necessarily come here. Well, you did for a while when we had Chris Godwin and Allen Robinson, and you go all the way back to Bobby Ingram, Kenny Jackson. We've had a lot of good wide receivers here for a while, but it's been a real slump really since Jahan Dotson left, and we have not found a guy in a while. I'm hoping that some of these young guys that are committed and coming in can be a spark plug, but that's why you got to look. You got to look at Kobe Howard. You got to look at Tyseer Denmark. You got to look at some of these young guys because the guys that are on the field right now are simply not producing. That is fact. And like I said, there's very questionable things on tape that I'm seeing from these wide receivers. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from? Hello. What is your name? Where are you calling from? Well, MIA. Someone said Parker Washington. I agree. Park's my guy. Parker's doing well. I do question. Here we go. Another caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
TJ Kavanaugh, Charlotte,
man.
North Carolina.
What is your question? Someone said Mike McQuarrie. Jeez. What's your question, my man?
Yeah, 2 questions. Talk to me about Chili's on Sunday. I see you frequent that. Like, what are you eating? What are you loving? And 2, is a James Franklin buyout even a thing? Like, we can't afford that. There's no way.
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. Sarah had looked at me and said, hey, do you want to go to, this was Saturday, and I'm sitting there watching the film, and she says, hey, do you want to go to Chili's tomorrow? And I said, you're damn right I want to go to Chili's tomorrow. So 43-minute drive it is. Parked, went in, got my chips and queso, or chips and salsa, got some queso too, got some mozzarella sticks, and then went in with a healthy dose of the Smokehouse combo. If you don't know about the Smokehouse combo, it's basically the biggest combo you can get there. Had some good food, some of the chicken crispers. It comes with like mac and cheese and fries. It had the jalapeno pork sausage something, and then what else was on there? Quesadillas. So it was good. That was a great question. $56 million. Once again, it's not going to happen right now. Unfortunately, I'll say this. I do think if you lose enough games, it can happen. Anything's possible. People can find a way. I do not think if James Franklin is 9-3 or even 8-4, probably won't happen in season. But, by the end of the season, like I said, I think you have conversations and you start to negotiate. But it all depends. Like I said, it all depends on what James Franklin does. If James Franklin loses 4 more games, will he become significantly less attractive to other schools? So it starts to become a lot harder. If we go 9-3 and miss the playoffs, and it's still a conversation at the end of the year, and you say, hey, James, we want to talk about bringing this down. We're going to mutually agree. We're going to give you a nice buyout. You can go coach somewhere else. You can go do TV for a year and then find your way kind of into coaching or whatever you want to do. Dan Mullen obviously did that. And now he's at UNLV. You got those type of options, but that's how I would see it working out best for James Franklin and Penn State if you do mutually want to part ways. If we lose to Matt Rule at home, the vibe will not be healthy. No, it will not. Matt Rule making his return to State College for the first time since 1998, maybe? I was cleaning out. Fun fact: I was up at mine and Sarah's place, and we have a place out in Northwest PA. And in the garage, it's like older in the garage, and I found a bunch of stacks of papers, and a bunch of it was from her dad, Kenny Jackson, when he coached here in the late '90s for the wide receivers. It was like a stack of papers, and I saw it was like the coaching staff, and it was like their jobs for that practice. And it was like the practice outline. We call it the practice shell. And I saw Matt Rule on there. He was obviously, I forget who he was working with. Was he working with the offense? I don't know. But I think that was 1998. So he will be back for the first time since then. That should be an interesting one. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Yo, Landon.
Yo,
you
what's
hear
up?
me?
Yes, sir. What is your question?
What up, man? Dude, I thought you blocked my number, man. You're getting popular. Wait on hold quite a bit, man.
I'm sorry, brother. I appreciate you.
No, good stuff. Good stuff. I just want to call out. I'm not calling in to support Penn State. I'm calling in for you, producer John, and Cornwall. Those are my three boys right there. The question: you've been in player-only meetings before. I'm assuming this could be a week where a player-only meeting is called. You know, Drew, after starting for 3 years, can he still not like lead a player-only meeting? And maybe what are player-only meetings like?
Yeah, look, I'm not gonna sit here and guess if he can or can't. I mean, as the quarterback, he definitely should be able to. That's what I'll say. Yeah, they're tough conversations. I will tell you, in 2021, when things got bad, we never had a player-only meeting. That did not happen. So I can't confirm or deny one or the other that there are going to be any player meetings, or if there have been any. I do think there needs to be. But I will just tell you, like I said, there was not one in 2021 when that season was going significantly downhill. Julius Caesar said they shouting out Landon on Josh Pate. Yes, my guy, Pate State. I'm enrolled at classes there, baby. I appreciate that. Shout out was big time. And once again, tomorrow we have producer Jesse coming on. I think that is going to go out kind of in the morning-ish time, who is the producer for Josh Pate. He is a Penn State alum. Done some work here, worked for the Spikes and all that good stuff. But he watches the tape. He watches the All-22, knows his ball. He came with some really good stuff. We had some much-needed conversations about this Penn State team, so you're not going to want to miss that one. It was very open, honest, and just real. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from? What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Norman Beck, Hartsfield, Ohio.
My guy, what is your question?
All right, so you've hit on several of them, so I won't go back to them. But isn't on the bye week? Didn't we hear that they self-scout themselves?
Correct.
And if that's the case, does the special team coach not see number 10 flying out of there on KOR?
That is a very valid
question.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. And this was someone asked, did they announce Iowa's at night? Yes, it's at 7 p.m. in Kinnick. You do not want to be in the dark at Iowa. Good luck. James Franklin in his presser today, basically, he was asked about the expectations of the Penn State team and why are we not living up to it. And he talked about the offense, the defense, and kind of why it happened. He just said inconsistency. And then he basically said, he mentioned special teams and the blocked punt. And we took it back for a touchdown. I have questions there because he was basically, he didn't say it exactly. He was basically saying, hey, it would be nice if we're a little bit more like special teams. But I thought there was a couple special teams blunders with the onside kick and then the punt safety at the end. And so I was kind of head scratching to me. And then you get into the conversation about the punt safety situation with James Franklin. And he said, hey, we thought they were going to kick it deep. He admitted they had the conversation on the headset that they might take a safety. And then he just finished off that sentence by saying, we should have rushed. Once again, I struggle because that is a coaching issue. That's where it's hard for me to blame the players because how is it on them? Like they're being told certain things. They're being told to be in punt safe, or they're being told, hey, let's all out block this thing. That's on the coaches. So I don't know how you're not ready for that because I thought it was fairly evident. And right hand to God, I mean, I guess maybe just because I watch a lot of football, but Gary Danielson, before he even said it, I was saying here in the studio, I'm like, they're going to take a safety here. They're going to take a safety. It popped into my head instantly. I don't know. I guess it wasn't. It wasn't exactly on the coach's mind there. So I thought that was interesting, complimenting the special teams after the blunders that they had on Saturday. Like I said, give them credit for the blocked punt that they returned for a touchdown. I thought that was going to be a big moment, and honestly, I thought the game was over then. I was like, oh, this UCLA team truly is not that good. And you could see it was like, oh, Penn State's starting to come back. And then Nico just kept making a play after a play after a play. And it was like, damn, we cannot get off the field. Oh, you guys are funny. Will Gamble said, oh, thank you, Will, for the donation. Would you rather fight 10 duck-sized Landon Tangwalls or one Landon Tangwall-sized duck? My brain hurts. I've made a lot of content today. I don't know. I don't know right now. Oh, man. Temple coach Matt Rule beat us in 2015 at home. Was he? Wait, was he really? Oh, yeah. Wasn't Pat Kraft the AD as well? Hold on. When was he there? Let's see. 20. Oh, yeah. Sure enough. That's disappointing. And I think so, yeah, Pat Kraft was, that's when they got close, right? Because Pat Kraft and Matt Rule are very close. Yeah, I mean, look, Matt Rule, I don't know. He doesn't really move the needle. You'll definitely get support. You'll get NIL support. That's for sure. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from? What is your name? Where are you calling from? Sorry, brother. No, so I do want to say, real quick before you answer that, Color said, not rushing the punter is a blunder, but only saved 4 to 5 seconds. It's not that big of a deal. Producer Jesse, actually, you'll see tomorrow, he mentions that too. It's not that big. But like, to me, that's the whole point. And Franklin says it's the little things. We can't just kind of swipe those things under the rug, because you swipe those little things under the rug and then things like the onside kick happen. And that, you can't tell me that wasn't huge. Penn State doesn't get the ball until they're down 10-0. So it truly is the little things. I know it sounds cliche, but the little things do matter. Those 4 to 5 seconds do matter. And so that's what's frustrating about watching this. It seems like it's the little things, especially with the coaching and the details with the players. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Landon. This is Matt. I'm calling from Texas.
What's up, Matt? What's your question?
How would you assess our captains' performances this year? Namely, Nick Dawkins and Zane Durant. I don't understand why no one's really talking about them when sometimes they look as if they don't want to be out there. Every play starts with line play, and these two seem to be getting picked on an awful lot.
Yeah, I appreciate your question. Obviously, like I said, you guys know it's never easy for me because I'm covering my friends. Nick Dawkins, one of my best friends, but I'm always very honest. I mean, yeah, Nick Dawkins and Zane Durant have not been what the team needs them to be. It is just that simple. There has been many times where Nick has missed some blocks, has had some snap infractions that has very much hurt the offense. And Zane Durant has been generally moved off of the ball a decent amount, not as much as last year at all. And I don't know, it's kind of confusing to me. I think one of the big issues on defense that I do have some problems with is, and I talked about this, is all the slanting and moving. And I know people say it's because the defensive line's small, so we have to do that. I mean, not necessarily. We didn't have to do it that much last year. And for the most part, we were fine. It wasn't that big of an issue. And there's so many times that when you slant someone, when someone goes from the A gap, slant to the B gap, someone then has to come and replace that B gap. And the replace is not working well. We're taking too long. We're either not fitting in the correct gaps. The blitzes and the stunts are not good right now for this Penn State defense, specifically against UCLA. Had some real issues with that. Yeah, I'm sad. I didn't realize that Signetti signed a huge contract last year, so that's pretty much off the table. That's pretty much gone. I'll tell you what. Oh, boy. What else do we got here? I'm trying to think. Do I have anything else in my... I wrote down a UCLA not okay list of things that I felt were not okay that happened. Not even just like players losing, like battles, but like things that happened were not okay. TJ, thanks for the donation. We are losing NIL race. Go win it. Make it impossible to lose. You are not replacing Franklin with anyone better at Penn State. Appreciate the donation, brother. We'll see. I don't know how much the fans will... I don't know if they're going to react too good to that one. We got a caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from? And Kevin,
Hello?
what's up, brother? What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Steve, I'm calling from New Jersey via Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, Steve. What is your question, my man?
So, when Knowles came in, there was supposed to be this big deep dive review of the offense, of how they stopped it last year. But it looks like we're running the same plays and, I don't know, not making any adjustments. It gets back to the self-scouting, like, what are you doing to change it up? And for me, like, the moment I felt like we were done for came in the Oregon game when the announcers, and I think it was Blackledge who said this, is they were talking to Kotelnicki about the offense, and he says there's a challenge designing an offense that's, instead of going around Drew, it's supposed to go through Drew. Now, this is a second five-star quarterback that Franklin's had where the system hasn't been designed for it. At what point in time do you have to say, I know this is not your competency, but we need to do what is best for our quarterback to win?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think it's fair. It is and James Franklin has been very clear in his press conferences of saying that certain things are fair questions. He hasn't been asked this, but I think it would be fair to say to James Franklin, or say of James Franklin, that his quarterback development, because he's had, 6, 7 offensive coordinators, so you have to kind of look at him because he's had so many different guys, his quarterback development has been subpar at best, especially when you have Hackenberg and Allar that are 2 former 5-stars. So, I think it is, once again, the biggest problem to me has been a unwillingness to adjust. That goes to offense, that goes to defense, that goes in game, that goes out of game. You have an entire offseason. And the biggest problem, and I've told you guys this, is that Kotelnicki and any offensive coordinator, they are who they are. You are who your scheme is. That's why when coordinators go places, you hire them because you like their scheme. You like what they run. It's not, you're not going to hire Andy Kotelnicki and say, hey, let's run a West Coast offense. Let's run spread. Let's go 2-by-2 spread with one running back in the backfield and shotgun the entire time and just air it out. You're not going to get that. So I don't know. So like I said, I feel like there needs to be definitely some adjustment, but there also has to be a reasonable expectation of you're not just going to overhaul a complete offense or defense because that coach, you hired them to run what they run. So I was waiting to talk about this. I was maybe going to make a video about this, but I think the best thing to do last year was to treat it like Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. Obviously, it's not working out too well for Texas, but you saw what you had. I think it's, and people can say, look, Drew took us to the semifinals. We were this close to going to the Natty, and I get that. And so was Texas. And they made the call. And like I said, doesn't look as good. Grass ain't always greener on the other side, but they still made the call saying, hey, Quinn, go ahead and move on. I don't think it would have been wrong, especially after what Bo did. And I know it was against Wisconsin. Bo looked so good, and Andy Kotelnicki ran his offense, his true offense. I've said it a million times. Go back and watch Wisconsin second half. That was Kotelnicki's true offense. Kotelnicki has had to tamper down the full offense that he wants to run, but he's still running. It's still his offense, and then you're limiting Drew's abilities of what Drew is best at. And so that's what's difficult for me is, once again, it doesn't fit. Square peg, round hole. It's clear that it doesn't work well together. And I firmly believe, I know I'm gonna get hate for this, and I think there are things mentally that he needs to work on, and obviously his mechanics are shoddy at times. But when I look at Drew, I just feel bad because I once again feel like he has not been developed. And it's not excusing the interceptions. In the past 3, well, not anymore after UCLA, but before that, the past 3 losses were all interceptions by Drew Allar to lose the game. And that's on him. But I still feel like all of the lack of confidence in Drew that he has in himself is because he's not in an offense that allows him to thrive. It feels like, to a degree, he has been I don't want to use the word baby, but that's what I kind of come back to. But it's just been like, hey, Drew, we got you. We're going to take care of everything. Don't make a mistake. Don't do this. Unleash him. When you get a 5-star, you unleash him. When you get a Ferrari, you don't drive the speed limit. Don't tell my mom. It's all right. I don't drive a Ferrari. Drive a Ford Explorer, cop car. That's just kind of that's just what it is. And yeah, Grunk is the same way. Grunk is basically the same quarterback as Drew. Has some really good pocket mobility, but he's not a running quarterback. It's a struggle for me. It's a struggle for me. If anybody calls in, we will take one last caller. It is 8:30 before I get out of here. Once again, we will have producer Jesse of the Josh Pate College Football Show tomorrow talking a really good conversation. We got our last caller. What is your name? Where are you calling from? The comment section is so crazy. What is your name? Where are you calling from? Oh.
My name's Steven. I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Steven, what is your question, my man?
So, 2 questions. Obviously, like, you were a 5-star and, you had to obviously retire due to medical injury, but what's our inability to get 5-star talent ready to play instantly, i.e. a Cooper Cousins or even some of these other 5-stars that we tout across the tight end world? Second point or question, the dysfunction between in-game play calling. How is Kotelnicki not making an adjustment? How is Knowles not making an adjustment? Or is it just that Franklin's somehow taking charge and saying, no, this isn't the call to make. I'm gonna direct the play flow and the momentum of the style of the offense or the defense.
Yeah, so I think it is hard, like you said, when you get these high level guys that don't develop and don't play. And there's different. You can't look at every case the same. There's difference. Yeah, someone put Justin Shorter. It literally popped into my mind. Justin Shorter, I'll just say this, was not on the coaching staff. So like there is that type of stuff. Now we're just throwing names. Ricky Slade, yes, also not on the coaching staff. So some things don't go your way. But yeah, no, it's clear that we have, to a degree, struggled to develop 5-star talent. I mean, we also haven't gotten that many 5-star, but I mean, look at Birchmeier, at Javen Williams on the offensive line. That hurts that neither of those guys have played, and they're not even in the rotation. We got 7 starting offensive linemen, and you say this offensive line struggling. Well, I'd like to see the 2 5-stars we have, but they're not even in conversation to play. They're probably on scout team right now. So, yeah, no, that's a hard pill to swallow. And then as far as in-game defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, yeah, I don't have the answer for you. I'll just keep saying it's inexcusable. I don't understand how you don't make those adjustments, how you don't see that X is not working, so let's go to Y. As soon as I watch the tape, I see it, and it's not an excuse if the coaches don't have the tablets. On the sideline, they have the tablets now. Because Michigan, once again, I would say this, Michigan cheated their asses off, you get the tablets, so you get to instantly see what happened. If you're up in the booth, you got to be checking that. You got to be saying, okay, here, what do we got going on? At halftime, I've talked about halftime, there's not a ton of adjustments that are made, but that's still a time to regroup and say, hey, our axe blitz that we're running, it's not working. Let's stop calling that. You're not going to come up with a whole new game plan at halftime, but that is a time to regroup, adjust, and fix things, specifically in this game, but in games past the offense, but in this game, the defense just didn't adjust to what was beating them. And that was what was so frustrating to many fans and myself watching this tape and seeing this team struggle against the worst team in Power 4 football. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys. Scheduled for the rest of this week, I will have like I said, tomorrow, producer Jesse video. Wednesday, probably going to do an Indiana-Oregon pregame show. If you guys are interested, I figured some of you might be more interested than Penn State Northwestern at this point because it's a top 10 Big Ten matchup. We're doing a little bit more Big Ten. We will have then over on For the Blog on Wednesday, I'll have a Northwestern film breakdown out previewing them. Don't blame you if you don't want to tune into that one. And then Thursday on my channel, we will have the official pregame show. And then Friday, I'll have some more Big Ten content out. So that is kind of the schedule for the rest of this week. And then obviously we are back live call-in shows 3 hours before kickoff on Saturday. So that'll be at 12:30 p.m. And then we are directly following Northwestern. So the chat is getting incredibly weird, but damn it, I love you guys. Best chat in all of the land. Appreciate you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.